everybody to the Candle Enthusiast. I am your host, Shane Carlson. And I want to extend a thank you for joining me on yet another live Sunday stream, a show that I call Smell It Sunday. And let me just briefly set up what we'll be talking about today because you might see a similarity in the title or the thumbnail of this video. Last week, I attempted to do a live stream that just focused on nighttime themed Yankee candles from the whole history of the company. And as it goes, usually with these live streams, the conversation took tangents, and I didn't get really anywhere near the amount of candles that I wanted to talk about. So I figured we'd do a part two. Let's do a part two of nighttime themed candles for Yankee Candle. I'm going to pull you folks up. It's always the first step, so I can read your comments in the chat area. And if you're available, I'm going to welcome you to join that chat area, and let's have some conversation as we talk about candles. How does that sound? All right. I'm still getting a little ad here on my video. Here it goes. Where are we? Bam, bam, bam. All right. So first, let me sum up or recap on some of the candles that we talked about last week. And that was going to be, I think I closed with this one, which is going to be Crisp Fall Night. This was a 2016 release, autumn release. Look at that. Look at the luster. The luster. This is, I don't think it's necessarily for everybody, and it's not even a typical candle that I would enjoy. A lot of folks say it is, big cologne forward, and yeah, it is. But somehow it doesn't bother me in this scenario. It's really the bergamot that brings it into that body fragrance territory. But there's some special associations I have with this one, and I believe I described it last week as one of my favorite, or just to me, a perfect example of a candle that is that transition from the late summer into the early autumn. You know, that time of the summer where you're like, if it's a little too early for me to be dipping into my autumn candles, right? We all know that feeling. I mean, because some of you guys want to dip into them like during 4th of July. I'm sorry, I have to change. Oh boy, change the angle here. And I also want to highlight the production value of these live streams as I adjust this wobbly gooseneck iPad holder. Yeah, so late summer nights when they start to get cold and chilly, crisp fall night. And just because I have it here, I should mention that the crisp fall night had its own kind of sibling candle, one that was kind of marketed together. And if I can find it, I'll show it to you. There it is, Autumn Gathering. All right, we're going to adjust this one more time. Let's get it straight. There. Isn't that better? We have Autumn Gathering. Let me give this a sniff. It's been a while. Autumn Gathering. It does have a little bit more autumn than the crisp fall night. There's a hefty wooden note that's in here, and a nuttiness too, like a I don't know, chestnut, it brings to mind like eggcorn, but like a nice, uh, fresh sanded piece of hard wood. Yankee, I would imagine would describe this wooden note as oaky, and it's not as perfumey. It doesn't have the bergamot, the peppercorn, like the crisp fall night. But yeah, why not? Let's just throw this in there. I would totally burn this at night, especially when the autumn comes to town. When comes to town. Yeah. Let's do another autumn candle. This one was interesting. I'm trying to remember the year. I'm going to guess 2018, but it could have been 2019. I don't know for sure. I can't remember is the problem. And it started off as an online exclusive. And, I was really excited when, you know, photos of this candle started to leak way back in the day. It did come in the house warmer jar, but right here, I remember this is the one I found before its release. I found it out at an outlet, so I could do a video of it before it hit the shelves. It was sometime in the summer. Blue Twilight Storm. Now, fanatics of It's the Great Pumpkin Charlie Brown will know what I'm talking about here. Now, of course, you have what looks like Linus's pumpkin patch, right? But if I cover up just the pumpkin patch and let you focus on that sky, does that remind you of any sky in particular? The nighttime sequences in It's the Great Pumpkin Charlie Brown, the background art had, I don't know, a lot of watercolor. I'm guessing there was a lot of pastel in it as well, but I love the sky and the background art for specifically It's the Great Pumpkin Charlie Brown. And there's no question that this whole image has to be inspired. If there was a live action It's the Great Pumpkin, would that not be exactly what it looked like? I mean, just with that alone, it sold me. And then when I got my hands on it, it seemed familiar. But I didn't figure out why for a while. Let me give it a sniff right now, and I'll explain. I think, this was an outlet. Like I said, this was one that I got before it actually came out at an outlet. So it doesn't. Yeah, this it's a little weaker, I believe, than at least what I remember the jar smelling like, the retail jar, and maybe even perhaps just a little bit different. But I can't say this for sure. I overheard someone say it, and I kind of took their opinion. It seemed to be true. This was a repackage of a candle called City Lights that Yankee Candle put out in 2017. 2018, these years, I can't remember them, folks. But either way, it was City Lights was initially released at a pop-up event in New York City, Soho, to be more specific. It was called Candle Power. It was Yankee Candle, Chesapeake Bay, and Woodwick. And I went down on opening day, and I filmed a little video there and posted it. And Yankee Candle reached out and said, "Thank you very much for doing that." And I was like, "Wow, all right." I was just worried about, hoping I wouldn't get in trouble. But I actually got a thank you from them. So that Candle City Lights was released at that event, and I loved it. I bought several, and they even shipped them to me because I told them I'm taking the train back upstate New York. They shipped them to me from the pop-up event. but it never really showed up in stores directly afterward. There was no release date. Like I'm like, they couldn't have just made this candle for this event, could they? And then I don't know if it was 6 months later or a year later, that candle City Lights did go to retail and it was available. I still don't think there was a lot to go around. Anyway, repackage, possibly maybe, of Blue Twilight Storm. It is another cologne fragrance. This is, I don't know. I don't have like a catchphrase for or a category for this kind of candle, but I typically say it's like bachelor pad. It's what maybe a young professional working in Wall Street. A young adult man, what you would imagine his apartment or closet or the cologne that he wears is smelling like this. And I think that and I've said this last week, I think that category really does attract the female audience. Again, the boyfriend candle. I wasn't a supporter of that that nickname, the boyfriend candle. Not that I have anything against it, but falls into that category, I believe, and I like it. But I really like the label. To be honest with you, it's on the table because I really like the label. It's got the sandalwood, citrus. I'm gonna guess like mandarin, probably some lemon in there. They're brightening it up. Tree fruit in form of like crisp apple, a peppery note, a nice little tickle on the nose. Not like not black pepper. Let's go white pepper. I mean, I know that maybe I'm sounding like I'm pulling stuff out of places. But actually, I think that you ever smelled white pepper? It has that very sneezy quality, but just a little tickle on the nose. And it has that briny. I get this sometimes on like green candles from Yankee Candle. It has this like briny olive, um, like green olive tinge. Very much a contemporary cologne, not like 70s, 80s, even 90s. This is very much more modern day. How are we doing in the comments here, the chat? Let me check to see who's in the house. Hello, Stephanie. Matthew is here. Early smell it Sunday today. Great to see you, Shane, says Matthew. Yes, and Matthew, I finally have this here. Maybe I should talk about this now. This is Matthew's book. He sent this to me as a Christmas gift along with a beautiful card. I've mentioned this a couple of times the past couple weeks, but I haven't ever really shared. I didn't have the book in my hand to show you. Look at the photo. I mean, okay, what does the photo do, right? It pulls at the heartstrings, right? You know what this reminds me of? You ever see the Smurfs Christmas special? They're all like decorating the tree and the the woodland creatures are just kind of hanging out, dancing along, or maybe even Santa Claus is coming to town, the stop motion animation. That those Christmas feels, you know what I'm saying? That's what this little tale is all about. This little book that Matthew put together. It is nostalgic. It is heartwarming. It's whether it's January 24th or the 4th of July, I'm always looking for an excuse to escape to Christmas land inside my head, right? And this is a perfect tool to make that happen. This is not what do we call it? This is not like a sponsorship in any way. This was a gift. I enjoyed it. I want to share it. I want to spread the love. Amazon, Looking for Christmas by Matthew Wyatt. Check it out, guys. It's like $7, $8. perfect for a gift, perfect for a gift for you. It's never too late to celebrate Christmas. And with times being as difficult as they are these days, we all need a reason to escape to that little happy place. And look, nice big font. It's not one of those. It's good for all ages. Read it by the harsh side with your family during the holidays. I am going to be doing a giveaway of this is my copy, but I have another copy that I ordered from Amazon. It got tied up because I used the wrong credit card on my PayPal account. You saw me purchase it live a couple weeks ago, and the order never went through because I used the wrong credit card. It wasn't expired. It just didn't have any money on it. Yeah, yeah. You know. But I'm going to be doing sending this to somebody. This one will stay with me, but during the live, we're going to find out a way for someone to win, not just Matthew's book, but also this one of a kind candle enthusiast. This is the first time I've ever had my face on a candle jar. This was sent to us by our great friend Virgil, huge supporter of the channel. It's called Humbug Tea, obviously inspired by the plethora of my Santa's Village videos. We're going to be giving this away too, and just to keep it, keep up, make sure that a lot of people are winning, and we haven't done a giveaway in a while. Virgil also sent us two other clamshells. One is kind of candle enthusiast inspired. It's got Santa Claus, right? Santa's coffee, and then a Halloween 3 inspired fragrance. So check out last week's video if you need. I broke these down, in a casual fashion, but we're gonna give all four of these things away today. All right, let's do another candle. Actually, let me thank a couple of people and say hi. Stephanie, hello. She says hi to all. I changed my days off so I wouldn't miss Smell It Sunday anymore. I love to hear that, Stephanie. That's awesome. Hello, Jordan. Jordan asked about the spring collection for Yankee. I have not seen it. I have not smelled it. I know that the four were released directly after Christmas. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. You know, I'm playing with the idea of doing like a reaction video, like actually getting the candles without actually knowing what they are, knowing what they smell like no photos. I want to know nothing. And then do a reaction video from sight to smell on camera. And I can't go through everyone's name, but thank you for joining. And Stephanie, again, with a super chat. Thank you, Stephanie. She says, so glad I changed my day off. It's the best part of her week. Well, that's very humbling to hear that, Stephanie. Thank you so much. And all right, let's do more candles. Where do we start? I'm trying to remember the ones that I talked about last week. I think we talked about this one, A Night Under the Stars, last week. Check it out. Again, cologne forward. Are we sensing some form of pattern here? Is Yankee all about cologne nighttime? Maybe so. Maybe so. But let's try to prove that wrong. I think we talked about dreamy summer nights. Now, this I wouldn't call cologne at all. This is my go-to. Harry Potter, Game of Thrones, Lord of the Rings, not just the movies and stuff. We're talking like sit down with a nice old-fashioned book with a cup of coffee, light this puppy up. Make sure you have adequate light. And then, read those fantastical pages. And then we had a little custom, the logo on this one. This one's for me. I'm not giving this one away. No. We gave some of those away when I first made them. I kept that one. We also talked about this candle, Midnight Cove. This is like a 2005, 6, just by looking at the design. Midnight Cove. And I don't believe this one was around for all too long, but don't hold me to that. I don't think it existed much after the pouring of this jar. Yeah, but it may have been around for quite a time in the 90s. Anyway, somebody left a comment, and I apologize that I can't remember your name, but someone asked if was there any ozone qualities in Midnight Cove, and I'm like, oh man, did I not even address that? So I wanted to, let me throw that in. I mean, if you watched the video last week, I was talking a lot about the saline, salt ocean air. I was talking about this beach flowers and the minerality, like it smells like wet rock. But yeah, I mean, it smells like you're standing, like a chlorinated pool is about 10 feet away when you smell this. It has that really wonderful and so unique atmospheric quality of ozone, which has that kind of chlorine smell. Or, if you were, ever out after a bad summertime thunderstorm and the air just has that electricity, there's something crisp in the air, something that's not there any other time than after that thunderstorm. Ozone. I wasn't a big fan of using that word in describing candles a long time ago, but I think um, I've explored enough candles that deserve to use that description, ozone. And Midnight Cove is one of them. I always thought ozone, this is like going back 10 years now. I always thought when people used ozone as a description on candles, I'm like, ozone's not a smell. It is a smell. It is. So I was just showing my own ignorance. I talked about Midsummer's Night last week. All right, I think we're at a good place to start introducing new candles. And as long as we're talking about thunderstorms, let's talk about this puppy right here. Here's a little candle that's got some Yankee Candle history to it. Bam, Storm Watch. Now, I think we've all seen this candle at one point or another. But interestingly, I wonder if any of you folks, I know a handful of you have to know this. This candle was originally released as a scentless candle. Didn't smell. I mean, it smelled like paraffin wax, but it had no fragrance. Why would Yankee Candle do that? Well, as the story goes, uh, Stormwatch was actually released and promoted as like, hey, if your power goes out because of the storm, we have a candle for you to light so you have some illumination in your house. They called it Stormwatch. It was a pretty old Yankee Candle. I think it probably went by a different name earlier part of the 90s. But yeah, I have a jar over there. It's unscented, just a very basic looking jar, white wax. But then they eventually gave it a scent. They probably are saying, look, we're a scented candle company, and we just made a candle for people whose their lights go out during a storm. Maybe we should add a scent. And that's what they did. And if anyone's guessing if this smells kind of cologne driven, it doesn't. See, I'm glad, finally. I remembered it kind of in my head being cologne, but this is actually much more springtime bombastic, like a cataclysmic blend of everything green that blooms in the early spring. Like, you wake up, your mom wakes you up to, early spring Saturday morning, and she's like, "You start Little League today." And you're like, "What? Already?" She gets you out of bed, and you're like, "Oh man, I'm missing my cartoons. I didn't even have a bowl of cereal, and I'm being driven to play. I haven't even met my teammates." Uh, yeah, that's what like baseball experience was for me. It was very traumatic. But anyway, it's that time of the year when everything's kind of muddy and sticky and there's little gnats and stuff. I'm not making it sound pretty, but what is pretty about this time of year? I don't like the spring, guys. I don't. I'm sorry. But what is pretty about this time of the year are the aromas. Like, you go on the, if I went out on that baseball field and you're yanking out all the, the weeds and the dandelions and all the green grass, so fresh and dewy. You take all of that green, throw it in the Vitamix, that industrial blender, zip, 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 a little bit of olive oil. Yeah, a little bit of zip that guy. Definitely the dandelion, the dandelion stem. You pop the head and you kind of rip the edges and you stick your finger in and it does one of those twisty curls. That milk that's inside the dandelion stem, it smells like pollen. But the florals on this are very, like for me, I got to be careful. But it is pretty nonetheless. Lilies, like Stargazer lily on this. Like, it's just, there's that smell of a lily. One year I was at the Red Line Inn in Stockbridge, Massachusetts, and I'm walking through. It's a big inn. If you hadn't seen my videos or haven't been there, and I'm walking through like the main room, like in the lobby, and I'm like, wow, wow, like there's lilies somewhere around here. I could smell them, but I couldn't see them. I'm looking all around. I'm like, this would be a good shot for my video to get like a shot of like the fresh lilies, but I couldn't see them. Probably an hour later, I was exploring the inn, and I was like 100 feet away from where I originally smelled those lilies. They were all the way in the opposite end of the building, all the way down a corridor, huge bouquet of those lilies. But I was like, wow, man, the smell of certain florals travel so far. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of ventilation going on, draft pulling aromas in and out, especially with the restaurants in the inn. But yeah, I was just so blown away by the strength of those stargazer lilies. And that's what I smell here. So green, citrus, um, floral, green as in like dandelion green. I don't have a name for that. Um, and definitely a little bit of that ozone that we talked about. Not so much a chlorine, but more of that seaside air. A little less chlorine, a little bit more salty. That breeze off the coast. And it's got that soapy. Not quite amber. What kind of soap is that? Mm. It smells like, old time fancy soap. I don't know what that is. Is it ambergris? I don't think it's ambergris. Uh, my aunt, my grandmother had a little fancy seashell hand soap in the bathroom, but you couldn't use it, right? Like it was just for show. you know, let's just keep it simple. I'm going to say ivory, like a white bar of ivory soap. It's musky, it's powdery, it's floral, a very warm, clean smell. Yeah, it's like a sea beach, beachside version of Edelweiss. by Yankee Candle, if you can imagine that. Stormwatch. And then what was the other one? I have it. There was one that came out in like 2015, 14. It was a red one. Who can name that for me? If someone can guess it, you're going to take home, or I'm going to send it to you. The Halloween 3 inspired jack-o'-lantern. So let me rephrase this. There was another Yankee Candle in somewhat modern times, within the past 10 years, that had um, like a lightning bolt crash on it. It was reddish orange in color, and I'm actually forgetting the name right now. So whoever can guess it first, and someone got it. um, Let me make sure though, because I've messed this up before. Okay, so Matthew got it. Matthew, as in looking for Christmas, Matthew. How funny would that have been if I was giving this away and Matthew won his own book? Matthew, yes, Summer Storm. That's what it was. Um, they were great to put next to each other for display, in the summer, I guess springtime season. But I'm going to send you, Matthew, this pumpkin fire Halloween 3 inspired scent. Um, Again, these are not sold. These were made by our friend Virgil, who's a supporter of the Candle Enthusiast. He's a candle maker. It's a huge passion of his, but he doesn't sell them. He sent me a bunch of things, and I love this one. I talked about it. It's like loaded with that clover and eucalyptus, and it's got that patchouli, a little bit spooky. This is coming to you, Matthew, and I believe I have your address. But for safe measure, for all these giveaways, please send me an email if you're a winner. Candleenthusiast@yahoo.com. Candleenthusiast@yahoo.com. And just write like, hey, I'm one of the winners, and say hello, and we'll exchange information for all of the winners. So I have an address that I can ship these prizes to. Very cool. Uh, And Matthew says, it came out when I worked at Yankee. I can't remember. It was 11, 12. I, my mind is it's blank. But it is one of those that like frequently found its way into like Walmart's or Hallmark stores. Like it was a non-Yankee Candle retail. It was a retail Yankee Candle, but it found its way outside to other Yankee Candle retailers. That was fun. Here we go. Stay with the beach. But maybe this one is, nighttime. Maybe I'm exaggerating a little bit here. I don't think I am. Not with this one. It's called Fireside, and this one goes back a good long way. Um, let's see, 90s. I would say late 90s. Possibly it could have been the first couple of years of uh, the 2000s. But Fireside, yeah, this was actually sold in a pillar, and when it was first released, it had a little sticker or insignia right here, and it said limited time only. Like they were just testing the waters with this one. But it actually became a very popular candle. It was beloved by many. I often hear a lot of people say, "Whatever happened to the candle?" Or, several years back, they did do a repour. They just popped up in stores, popped up in outlets, and that was it. It just went away again, and that's one of these. This was relatively new, but I do have I think a black band medium jar of Fireside. So let's give this a sniff. Guys, I'm really testing my sensory evaluation here because I haven't smelled a lot of these in a long time. Ooh, ooh, okay. See that's all I needed. I mean, I will smell it again, But when people sit there with the candle in their face for hours, I'm like, just wondering, they're just being overloaded and killing their noses. So there is a cologne here, and it is more of an old style cologne. It's that vetiver component. It is that gray flannel. Have you ever smelled that? Goes back a ways, early 80s or late 70s, I believe. But it just has that very dry organic material smell, like whether it be hay or grass, pine cones or tree bark that's just sat out in the sun and is completely dehydrated, corn stalks. It has that dried out organic smell. And that's what vetiver really smells like. It's just a tropical grass. Man, this one's actually smelling like several different old time colognes. Maybe this is why it's not as popular now as it was. Let's say if we went back 10 years, because this is doing a lot to me. This is like, I'm thinking of a Halston and Stetson cologne, gray flannel. Um, it's really it has that spicy, grassy note that I wish I could describe better. Very herbal as well. I mean, there's absolutely nothing fruity about this at all. Sweet, but not fruity. The main wood component is just, it just reminds me of oak barrels, which kind of makes sense, right? Like imagine if this fire right here, these were like oak barrel staves, the staves of a barrel. If you ripped a barrel apart and you made this fire right here. In fact, this is kind of making sense for me personally, because when I think of Sonoma County in California, I was talking about this last week or a couple weeks ago. Um, this really does look like the Sonoma coast, how I remember it, especially the kind of dark and gloom of that when the nighttime comes, and it's those beach sides are so big that you could have a fire and be completely by yourself. I'm used to like going to the beach growing up in like New Jersey, and there's like 400 people within the space of like a baseball field. It's just crowded beach. But this ominous, slightly ominous, but also very romantic dusk beachside on top of the sand, this warm fire, you get almost the spiciness of this candle, and the cologne spice makes it feel like you're getting the spice of an astringent smoke from this fire, if you can imagine that, right? There's that feeling when you get a little bit too close to that smoke. It's just, ooh, your nose is like, oh, that's enough, that's enough. Well, I'm not saying the candle is saying back off, but there's a little bit of that fresh plume of campfire smoke that tickles the nose. So the sensation is familiar to smelling smoke, but it doesn't smell like smoke. It smells like wood, though. Yeah, I mean, this is like walking into like a Pacific Northwest lodge, half barn. You know, maybe there's hay bales somewhere. It's that really aromatic, wooden, dry smell with these bright floral embellishments of some herbs, or just not herbs, but herbal smells to keep it simple, not like culinary herbs. But yeah, I mean, if you did, or your father did, or if your grandfather wore gray flannel, Halston, throw in Stetson. I've admitted I don't know my colognes that well. I try to learn a lot of them, like the old classics. I can't. But this, I think, could be very nostalgic for people who are trying to kind of find things to maybe feel like dad is back, or grandpa's back, or your old self, not your old self. Let me rephrase that. The young buck that you were, in the late 70s, 80s, um, even 90s, the cologne was still very much around. I mean, it's still around now, right? You can still buy Halston and Stetson, but it's just a cologne of a different time. Fireside. Hey, definitely. Uh, even though this got a picture of a beach on it, I think you could easily bring this into like a cabin setting. Again, that Pacific Northwest, or even like the Catskills, New York. Everything is organic. Everything's wood and cedar and, just exposed wood everywhere. It's a little bit too heavy for me. I don't think I could burn that candle. I appreciate the way it smells. I like it. But that one would, I think, get to me after a while. I'm looking at the comments here just to make sure. I'm just so afraid that I'm going to miss something, because I normally do. Da, 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 da. Okay, and Boner Jams, Mr. Jams, with his super chat. Uh, Good guy. Let's see what Boner Jams, Mr. Jams, has to say. Um, Afternoon, everyone. Watching the Candle Enthusiast before I delve into some football for the rest of the day. Have a great week, everyone. Thank you so much. Yes, I remember when I first started doing the lives. I don't watch football. I just don't. It's not that I wouldn't enjoy it if I did. I just know if I start watching the baseball season at the beginning of the year, I'm addicted the whole season. So I typically stay away from sports. But I remember when I first started doing the lives, I was neglecting to realize, I'm like, oh, I got to make sure that my live is not conflicting with these very important games going on. And I think that's a scenario now. All right. If you've asked a question or made a statement and I've missed it, please say it again. I don't want to miss anything here. All right, this is a little dusty. But this one was only released in for the European audiences. However, I'm seeing now that it may have also been Canada. I don't think I ever realized that before. Yeah, so the U.S. did not get this candle. Now maybe I am pushing the whole nighttime thing, especially since I've talked about this candle before and blatantly described, an internal vision of autumn in the morning with this candle. But I think this one could certainly uh, be serviceable for a nighttime candle. I mean, what's just so gorgeous about the label is you have like the golden leaf, oak leaf, and like the purple. That looks like it's being hit by sun. That's like looks like it's getting that past dusk purple light. Um, so much about this label that I love. I'm not going to go into it, but we do see the little acorns too. Absolute shame that the U.S. never got this. And I still don't think it's one of those candles that a lot of people are overly familiar with. So what that means is if you do find one on eBay, it's typically, unless I'm so out of out of touch with the candle world, I don't think this is one that would go for an extraordinary amount of money on eBay. Ooh, this is good. This is spicy and fruity. Spicy as an autumn spice. We have the cinnamon, the clove is the big one. The clove, um, um, sure, why not? Let's say the nutmeg, dried, dehydrated zest of orange zest, star anise. So kind of like this potpourri mix going on, right? But what's really unique that, I don't remember in potpourri is this dehydrated or at least condensed black fruit aroma, like black currants, blackberries, fig, mulberry. We take all of those, right? Imagine like a dried fruit form, a little bit chewy, maybe a little bit juicy, but just still chew. Or if you had like an infused, like say like a fig balsamic vinegar. Mm. Not emphasizing the vinegar thing. I'm just emphasizing the oxidation of the fruit. It's been exposed to oxygen. And as we all know, as fruit is exposed to the oxygen, aroma changes. And as it concentrates, the water evaporates from the fruit, it becomes more concentrated. That spice and black fruit mix is great. I mean, this is like on I like this. Okay, so on paper, if I were to say, okay, right bank Bordeaux wine. Okay, so for your wine fans out here, and I'm going to describe this in a way where I think hopefully everyone will be able to example. In Bordeaux, we're talking about the five main grapes of Bordeaux. They're kind of like the god grapes. Cabernet Sauvignon, we got Merlot, Cabernet Franc, Petit Verdot, and Malbec. Right? Bordeaux is red Bordeaux is a conglomeration of those grapes, a percentage breakdown, but usually, almost always, it's going to be Cabernet as the biggest percentage, or Merlot. Sometimes Cab's up here, sometimes Merlot's down there. Anyway, but if I were to describe a Merlot, I would say it's got barrel spice. They're using high quality, brand new French oak barrels. Now, barrels is, aging, wine in barrels is not just about imparting its flavor. It in its own way, it does oxidize the wine, and it changes it. It changes the texture, it changes the color, but changes the flavor and the aromatics. But on paper, I would say a typical Bordeaux is going to have those classic baking spices that I mentioned here. It would also have, if it was Merlot, I would say it would be more red fruit. But if it was Cabernet dominant, I would say it would be more blue fruit or blue fruit or black fruit. Um, and I'd write that down, right? And you know the nature of the acidity. I said that balsamic vinegar, that has that residual sugar, and it has that tinge of acidity when you sniff it, right? It feels like if I jot all of those qualities down on a Bordeaux, and even the straight up actual wooden qualities straight from the oak barrels, and I smell this, it doesn't smell like a Bordeaux wine, but it smells like everything I wrote down about how to describe a Bordeaux wine. Does that make sense? Like the ratios, the proportions are nowhere similar. But I think this is, if this were called Bordeaux blend, would totally work. It wouldn't smell really like a Bordeaux wine, but it's got all of the same ingredients. Nuttiness too, which again, oak barrels, man, they give you the spice, but they also do give you that roasted nuttiness. It's a really pretty label or a pretty label and pretty scent, but that orange is really important. That's in there. There's a zip, if I can use that word, zip of that zest. It's like that little garnish of orange zest that they put on top of your cocktail. Really pretty label. This is Valentine's Day, anyone? This? Okay. You want to talk about how to impress your lover. You buy a candle in this realm and you pair it with a wine that mimics, contrasts, complements whatever you want to do, but find a beverage and let your partner know that you put time and thought of pairing the beverage with a candle like this. I don't know much about romance, folks, but I certainly would be really enthused if if someone made that pairing for me on a very special Valentine's Day. Stephanie says, I actually like grape flannel. I've worn it myself. It has that smooth herbal scent, so it's kind of unisex. I like it. I like it. Even if colognes like that, like if you just go a little squirt, like inside a vehicle or something like that, and just aired it out, and then there's this lingering of, gray flannel was once here. I think that kind of stuff is awesome. It would just remind me of my dad's car. But I'm all about like women trying. I think there's a lot of women wearing different perfumes or unisex colognes that may have been stranger. If we rewound the clock years ago. I like that there's bolder choices as far as perfumes, and that there's a lot more scents that we recognize as a people as being unisex. Shane, what is your favorite summertime candle? I'm going to take the easy way out here because it's on the desk and we've already talked about it. But I was talking to my good buddy about this candle just a few days ago. This Dreamy Summer Nights, this is good stuff. I mean, this is really good stuff. And again, this is not going to offend anybody. And look how pretty that label is. It's black wax. So I don't know if this is my favorite. It can't possibly be my favorite, but honestly, I would have no qualms of burning that candle 365 days out of the year, including summer. And I think it really is a good summertime candle specifically. Like those late summer nights when it's like 1 o'clock in the morning, but there's, maybe things are different today, but back in the day, cable television, they had like good movies on. You're like, you know what? It's summer vacation. I'm off tomorrow. I'm just going to stay up and keep watching movies all night long and maybe take a run out and take a dip in the pool later on at like 3 in the morning. I was a night owl as a child. Um, but try to think if there's another one that stands out more prominently. I don't know if there is. I really don't know if there is. I have to be perfectly honest, guys. I've always been a seasonal candle burner. And that can mean many things. But for me, like candle season began in like September and usually fizzled out in like January, February. Now I've tried to adjust this, but it's still that little time frame, not little time frame, but that half of the year is still my favorite to burn candles. In the summertime, I don't know, there's a lot of problems. The AC is running, so the room is a little bit too cold. Sometimes it's really humid for a candle to perform properly. But I think a safe bet for me in the summertime, like during the day, is something that's refreshing, fruity, uh, fruity, but also fruity citrus. Like it's got to have that zing. It's got to have that bright like lemonade. You know, here's one for you: a Sicilian lemon, a perfect candle. A perfect candle. At least it was when it first came out. Midnight Oasis. I was just smelling that one. Oh, there's a lot of good comments, guys. If you're not taking part of the comments right now, make sure you swing by. Dale says he loves Malbec. I'm not fancy, so I would pair it with caffeine-free Dr. Pepper. Awesome. Hey, it works, right? Dr. Pepper is more cherry, um, not really the fig or black fruit, but it's got the spice. It's maybe not got like wooden notes, Dr. Pepper, but it's got vanilla. You could say the vanilla in Dr. Pepper is like the vanillin in a French oak barrel. I love Lemon Lips. I love that name. Says I love Lemon Lips. Says I have my candle all picked out for Valentine's Day. Sugared strawberries. Yeah, strawberries is a good one, right? Like strawberry, there's a lot of fruit that can't be authentic a lot of the times, like blueberry. We all love blueberry, right? Most of us do. But let's face it, a lot of the time, blueberry, even when it's done well, can smell a little plasticky. Like Bath and Body Works blueberry pie. There was a wasn't that long ago, but it was a huge craze. Like it broke the internet. It felt like anyway, when that candle was released for like $10, everyone was buying it that year. It was like around Christmas, early December, I think. And I'm like, what? Like, how good can a blueberry pie candle smell? I went and I smelled it. I'm like, oh my God, give me five. And as good as that candle was, when you have it lit, after like half hour, an hour, let's face it, you come back into the room. I burned mine in the kitchen. I'm like, it smells nice, but it's starting to smell a little bit artificial now. Like it's like almost beyond candy. It's plasticky blueberry. So blueberry can't, in my opinion, it's hard to do it really well, but strawberry can come off very authentic, and you can have it in a lot of ways, like a strawberry daiquiri, like a syrupy strawberry, or that fresh green and tartar side of the strawberry. I'm trying to think. I was just burning straw. What was the name of it? Strawberry sorbet, strawberry daiquiri. It's a newer candle, Yankee candle, um, and it was from a collection, a summertime collection in the past like 3 years. I can't remember the name. I can't remember. The names elude me now. I just have to resort to putting all of my thoughts on paper because I can't remember anymore. I've reached my the threshold for candle knowledge, I suppose. Matthew says, and thank you for your support, Matthew. Really appreciate it. Speaking of summer, there are lots of ocean scented candles. Do you have Oceanside by Yankee Candle? Came out in 2012 and was gone by 2014. I just need to think of what the label looked like. Oceanside. Oceans. I can't remember. Is this bad? Am I really showing my memory fading? I don't remember that one. I'm sure if I saw. Oh, I know what it looked. Did it have the lighthouse on it? Like the lighthouse. I think that's what you're talking about. I could be wrong. And I do remember that one. And yes, there are a lot of aquatic, beachside, coastal, bay, cove candles. It really deserves its own like live stream sometime. And I have a lot of them. I think the one that is a classic And I think most people, at least the folks that I've spoken with, in the candle world on the internet, um, other folks with candle channels on YouTube or accounts on Instagram, Bay Breeze was the one. Like that one was not only great smelling, but it was just captured the essence of what it's like to be, standing on the coast with that high wind and what that smells like. Bay Breeze. Da-da-da. Right. Strawberry Scoop. Thank you for having my back, Matthew. Yes. Oh, not Strawberry Scoop. Strawberry Soup is good. That's not the one I was burning. It's more recent than that. Strawberry Scoop is really good, though. Um, I had a lot of. I've had some that were performed really well, and then I had some that were like, I don't know. And I think maybe the jar may have, or the 2-wick tumbler may have performed better than the actual house warmer jar, but I really, really liked the smell of strawberry or summer scoop. Strawberry summer scoop is the one I'm thinking of. Love black coconut for summer too. Dale just poured a 12-ounce glass of Merlot, and I have my salt and vinegar Pringles and enjoying the live chat. How Merlot? First of all, I love Merlot. Merlot is such an underdog, and it's a horrible injustice. Merlot and Pringles. This is why I love this guy Dale. Such a great guy. No lighthouse, bright sunny beach with the gazebo on the right side, ocean side. Oh man, if I saw a picture, I'm sure I would know. I'm positive I would know. But it's hard for me to have it come to me right now. Hi Shane, happy Sunday. I quietly enjoy your Sunday live videos. I am a seasonal burner and I am anxiously awaiting spring, which means Yankees grass will soon come out. Well, thank you. If you said you're a seasonal burner and you quietly enjoy Sunday lives. Well, thank you for coming out of the shadows and saying hello. I appreciate that, Kim. Thank you. And spring will be here, honestly, before we know it. It may even be here before this live is over. All right, let's try to switch it up. Okay, we did like coastal, we did autumn. Can we do another autumn? I have a couple more autumn, but this one. Oh man, this was like the good old days of the candle enthusiast. I was traveling around New England, trying to find candles and outlets, calling names and numbers, trying to get things in my hand so I could post these videos before they were even released. And this was I probably had this candle in my hand before it came out. How do I say that? I had this for like 4 months before it actually hit the shelf for real. I actually had several. We had little votives, and we did a giveaway. It was like the beginning days of this channel, and it was an autumn release. But I remember finding it in the beginning of the summer, like late spring, and that's going to be moonbeams on pumpkins. Now there may be a couple of you like, come on, come on. No, this is. It did have a UK release. It had a UK label, but this is the rare instance where I feel like the composition of the US keyhole label was actually superior to the full size label. Let me just, if you don't want to hear me talk about it, because I know a lot of people are like, I'm over stuff like this. I'm not. hear me out for a minute. Okay, we have these pumpkins, these gourds. It appears that we're looking down on these pumpkins, like perhaps they're on the front stoop or like the front porch of a country home. And I mean, I'm just talking about the photograph here, but it's going to translate into the aroma in just a minute. We have, this kind of blue kick light, this rim light that's on. It's not really a rim light. That's really the rim light. This is like the fill, this blue fill light that depicts the nighttime, um, that autumn, that late autumn night, late September, late October. It's cold, right? And we don't see anything of the outside. We're looking straight at what looks like a cement like porch, and we just got the pumpkins, but we feel that nighttime. But on the other side, oh, on that other side, we have this fiery orange, golden, warm light. So not only do we have this contrast of the blue and the yellow, but it's creating this, it's suggesting this atmosphere of the door is right here. It's right there. This and it's where the two worlds meet. The warm, cozy, crackling fire, warm, tasty treats in the kitchen of the indoors with the cold starkness, the decayed, crumbling organic matter of the late night in fall. It's where those two worlds meet, the indoors and the outdoors. Now, so that's just a interesting um, photo, right? But why this makes this candle so great is because this candle is just that. It has those warm, fuzzy, feel good aromas that bring us to that, inside the home. Some hot beverage is being brewed in the kitchen. There's something that's baking in the oven, but you're close to the fire. You're watching, good old fashioned seasonal movies on the television. The light is really dim and warm, and you got a blanket. But then somebody opens that front door. Gosh darn it, who did it? Someone opened that that front door and let in all of that cold air, and some leaves just scuttle's not a word, but they fly into the living room, and that smell again of that cold soil, that cold stone, the decaying apples, the crushed apples underneath the apple tree in the front yard, the sacks of maple leaves in the jack-o'-lantern trash bags. All that comes in, and you're aggravated at first, but there's that equilibrium, that where the warmth and the cold meet, and the temperature is just right, and not just the temperature, the aroma of the inside and the outside meet, and it's just right. And just for a split second, everything is good in the world. And to me, that is what Moonbeams on Pumpkins is all about. Ah, it's so good. It's so good. It always had a slightly artificial. I'd never said that in my evaluations, but it doesn't really translate when it's lit. It does have this kind of, I think what's making me think artificial is the nuttiness. There's like a walnut pecan nuttiness here. Like you crack that walnut shell and you smell the inside of the shell. It's got that, that astringency. Um, but other than that nuttiness with the buttery and the salty, it could be a pumpkin muffin, it could be a bran muffin, it could be a little bit undercooked, but it's also got like that Maillard, really almost overcooked, but in a really good way, the crunchy muffin. that smell of gourd. There's a little bit of a pumpkin thing here, but actually, it's probably more accurate to say carrot than pumpkin. I mean, you smell it and you're like, oh, pumpkin. But if you really analyze it, you're like, actually, it does kind of smell like carrot. Like when you shave that carrot and you throw away the shavings, the outside of that carrot, um, it smells a little bit different than the sweeter core. So we have a little bit of that pumpkin gourd, or again, maybe it's the pumpkin is actually incorporated into this pastry good. It's got the sweetness of cane sugar, maybe some honey. I always want to throw in golden raisins. Mmm, mmm. It's just like the best smelling muffin or granola bar, salty, savory. Yeah, but you twist it in just a way. Now, hear me out. You twist that just a way. I said like walnut, pecan. What if we twisted that to like eggcorn? And what if, instead of the baking spices, the cinnamon, nutmeg, we kind of twisted that and be like, ooh, but it's kind of has that like baking spice that we find from those oak barrels that we just talked about a little while ago. What if we talked about that golden raisin? What if we talked about that pumpkin and we didn't think of it as like a golden raisin pumpkin in a pastry, but maybe a piece of fruit that's laying on the forest floor or in the orchard, that pumpkin sitting on the front stoop. Maybe it's starting to sag a little bit, it's starting to soften up. I mean, Halloween is right around the corner and that pumpkin's starting to lose its integrity, but the aroma is so strong. You know, you, it's one of these things where if you really focus on the warmth of the situation, it's very easy. But if you switch in your mind the temperature, the setting, it can bring you outside. It has all of the things that we would need to poetically describe um, outside, cold night and autumn. I think anyone who smells this is going to think warm indoor candle. But if you're willing to go on that stroll, on that late fall night, open your mind a little bit. You'll find all of those elements of the outside. But again, it's that collision that I love. Moonbeams on Pumpkins. What year was that? 2018? Yeah, that was I remember that being on QVC for the European crowd. Virgil's in the house. Virgil, we're doing a giveaway, buddy. And it's time we do another one. Um, but thank you so much for your support today, Virgil. And I like your new avatar photo. All right, how are we gonna do this? All right, we have a Santa's Village candle, inspired candle. It's got Santa. Um, I guess it doesn't have to be Santa's Village, but I want to think of it that way. I love Santa's Village's coffee up in New Hampshire. So I got to come up with a good question. I'm going to do like a trivia question. Let's see if I can do this. It smells so good. I just like cracked it open slightly in my lap. I talked about this last week. This is everything good about a cafe, but also everything good and nostalgic about that that Maxwell House. You take the lid off and you rip the foil, and there's just like something happens in that moment when you rip that foil off the tin, and it's like that coffee is it's such a particular smell inside of that can. There's a lot going on here, but that's really why I think this one's special. Santa's Village question. Man, I don't know if I have a good trivia question, but let's see. And this is, I should have said this before. I can only do the giveaway for US at this time. I apologize for our viewers tuning in from abroad. Um, oh, what's a good question? I can do an easy question. All right, I think in every single video I did at Santa's Village, there's one ride that I always go on. It's under a roof, but it's still kind of outside. And it spins around like this. You're in a cart and you just spin around. It's like the loop-de-loop, twist-a-whirl. There's a name for this kind of ride. You're just in a cart and you go in circles. What is the name of that ride at Santa's Village in the White Mountains of New Hampshire? The first person to give me the correct name of that ride, as long as you're from the U.S., I'm going to send you Santa's coffee. Again, you can't buy these. These are the, the, the smallest of small productions. See if someone can get that question. Can you talk a bit about Sweet Bunny Carrot? Ooh, I regret not getting a larger jar of that when it was out. So underrated. Yeah, and Todd, nice to see you, by the way. Sweet Bunny Carrot, or Sweet, what is it? Sweet Bunny Carrot was an Easter release just before Yankee Candle put out this one for autumn. This was a 2020 release, Jack-o'-lantern. This had carrot in the fragrance notes, but before, because that's odd, right? How many times have you seen carrot as an ingredient or as a fragrance note in a Yankee Candle? It's just not common. But the Easter before the release of this candle, they really played up this carrot forward, Easter themed candle, and I was like, this is big. This is big because it's vegetal, but it's also very refreshing. It's like I remember. So I unfortunately don't believe I own it. It was like you had a colander of fresh carrots pulled out of the soil, and you're rinsing it with like ice cold water. I know it sounds nuts, but like there is a smell, at least I can think of a smell of like really cold carrots. If you're like blanching carrots in ice water or yeah, just rinsing them in cold water, there's a smell. It interacts in some way. But what was really great about that candle is I don't think it actually smelled like dirt or soil, but because the carrot element was so authentic, when you smelled it, you thought you smelled dirt or soil. Like you just pulled those carrots up out of the ground. You just uprooted them. Um, and it had, a very distinct root. Like it smelled like a root, not just carrot. So, and that candle was, sweet, and it had like a little bit of grassy smells. It was crisp. It was refreshing. I believe it had like some citrus in there to brighten the whole thing up. But it was like, okay, it was like how watermelon is refreshing for fruit. This candle, the bunny cake or the carrot bunny something or other, was like refreshing for vegetables. Like it just had, there was something about it that it was just, you felt like if you could bite into it, there'd be like a splash of juice. I haven't thought about that candle in a while. Thank you for bringing that up. Oh, look, and Todd says you can smell the roots. See, Todd's got a good nose. Isabel says, oh my gosh, hi. I'm so happy I've made it to a live finally. Well, I'm happy too. Isabel, what took you so long? Yeah, thank you for joining. Taking it a bit slow today. Um, just enjoying Sundays, you know. Sundays are just the day I realize I'm not gonna do any work. I need to be. I could do work. I just at the end of the week, you know, it's just like I don't know. I got up this morning. I took my dog out. Spent a good half hour walking her around. Made some coffee. Watched some YouTube. Read some of my book. Talked to some of my friends. And now I'm doing this. This is not work to me. This is just hanging out with you guys, which is a pleasure and a joy every week. Let's talk about this one, Jack o' Lantern. This was one that I picked out. Um, now, in the European countries, this was released as Pumpkin Patch. Yeah, and it had a, not a different label, but it was so cropped. It was just like that. Like that's what, like it was a bigger label, but like you didn't get any of this. What kind of looks like a park in autumn. Like that could be a park in any town USA right there. You had these two jack-o'-lanterns. And I did a video on this one. I was really happy with it. It was a really fun candle. I did a video, not of me smelling it. I did a video of what um, I predicted it was going to smell like. It might sound a little crazy, but it was it was one of those spoiler alert Halloween videos that I do. And come on, be honest. Who likes it? Who doesn't like it? Who loves it? Who hates it? Like, share it. Now's the time to share. Not just for me, but everyone tuning in. Because the day that it officially was released, I was hanging out at the Yankee Candle Village for the Halloween um, launch party, and this was like the the year Halloween got canceled because of COVID, right? It was the height of everything. And so it wasn't a big party. So I was just kind of talking to, people who had seen me on YouTube or people who usually I meet every year when I'm at that party. And I remember everyone just having a very negative take on this. They're like, ooh, no, no, no. And I'm like, really? I'm like, I adore it. Now, I put so much thought into it before I ever even smelled it. So I was thinking maybe it's just, I have an appreciation for it because I made, a couple videos on it. Oh, man. So, I mean, in a world where there's far too many pumpkin spice candles, what could make us need a new one? And Yankee Candle really stepped up with this one because they took the elements of a pumpkin spice candle, but it's rejuvenized. It's refreshing. It doesn't smell like walking into a Michael's or an art store in autumn. Not that that's a bad smell, but we all know that experience. Like scented wreaths in autumn. Just even just like very basic wax. Like let's say we go to Walmart. I won't mention any company names. I don't dislike any of the companies who sell candles at Walmart. I think some of them are great, but like a lot of them are just like, okay, it's just a generic pumpkin spice. And I think there's a place for that. Like you need to be able to find a candle that you're looking for fast, right? Like you need a good Christmas tree smelling candle. Every company's got to have one. It can't be too like out in left field because it has to meet expectations. It's the same thing with pumpkin spice. But this candle it's fruity, it's savory, it's well, I don't want to get ahead of myself. There is that nuttiness. I feel like there's a lot happening here that we saw in Moonbeams on Pumpkins. Now, keep in mind, there's only like 2 years between these two, because I am getting the nuttiness. I am getting those baking spices. But the element that I feel like everyone seems to miss on this candle is apple. If you have this candle, go smell it, please. Please. Pick it up off the shelf and smell it. And tell me you don't smell apple, but a specific kind of apple. This is not out in the orchard crunch. This is not apple cider. This is like an apple slice that's been spiced, sugared, and has been baked. A baked apple. Baked so much that it's like down to nothing. It's like a pudding at this point. And when you oxidize an apple like that and you cook it down like that and you sweeten it and spice it like that, my go-to description is always the innards of a McDonald's apple pie. I mean, just think of like the empty box of the apple pie you get at McDonald's. You know, you get that like whatever that savory thing is. Like it's like the butter at IHOP. I don't know what they're doing to it, but it's not just butter. But yeah, there's that savory. Maybe it's just the perfect. It's just the perfect ratio of the butter, the fat, matched with the saltiness, and of course with garnished with the spice. But I think what that apple does here, although it may be cooked down dramatically, it still has a perceived tartness, malic acid. It's still kind of mouth-watering. Like you smell this, and it's I'm not kidding. You smell a candle like this, you start salivating, right on the bottom side of your tongue. Your salivation kind of pulls up. You're like, how am I salivating? I didn't even taste anything. It's tricking your mind. You're smelling the acidity, and your tongue is reacting. Just like if you bit into a lemon, you're gonna salivate like crazy. Well, you smell apple and you pay attention to what your mouth is doing. It can actually give you a lot of hints. It's a little trick, sommelier, wine tasting trick. Yeah, you know, something I'm getting right now that's actually kind of fancy and fun. Okay. So just to be clear, it's nutty, butter, salt, apple, caramel for sure. There has to be a caramel drizzle. If we're building something, there's got to be a caramel drizzle. But actually, I was getting like this marshmallow fluff action. There's a big confectionery thing here. And I'm happy to go with marshmallow fluff. Now, where does the pumpkin come in? Where does the jack-o'-lantern come in? Well, we just talked about this. This kind of smells like the innards of a pumpkin. You rip out the innards, the seeds. And you know how it's like it's the when you're making a jack-o'-lantern, it's the jack-o'-lantern is like frozen, because it's been sitting on the porch and you carve it and you pull it and it's like ice and you're ripping it out. It's got that gourd, raw pumpkin guts smell. However, as I said, there was carrot in the fragrance notes of that candle. And I almost kind of wish Yankee had kept that ingredient a secret. Just call it pumpkin. But it's totally carrot. It's not pumpkin. But the mind, it's interesting how it's like pumpkin orange, carrot orange, very organic from the earth smell, and a pumpkin from a carrot, how we can be blindsided and smell one thing and think we're smelling another. And because of that carrot, I think this is also kind of why it's reminding me of Moonbeams on Pumpkin, is because I said there was a gourd pumpkin thing on Moonbeams on Pumpkin, but actually kind of reminded me of carrot cake. Same thing here. Like with that fluff, with that, with the spices and the buttery and the apple. Yeah, I mean, this is like a pumpkin spice Yankee candle that's good enough to not literally eat. What I mean is like this smells like something I want to eat. Pumpkin spice candles, not always something I want to eat, right? just spices. This has the savory, salty, and sweetness to really live up to a culinary treat. Jack-o'-lantern, I'm glad it's hung around. It's still out there. I just don't know why this is not a big deal. Like, I think this should be a staple of the Yankee Candle lineup. I think for so many years, we've been living with spiced pumpkin. Now, we all, that's a Yankee Candle treasure. Spiced pumpkin is probably, outside of balsam and cedar, the biggest candle, the one everyone knows. But it's also the one a lot of people don't like because it's too strong. That doesn't mean people don't like pumpkin spice. Just a lot of people don't like really aggressive pumpkin spice. And that's where jack-o'-lantern comes in. That candle was needed in this in this world, on this planet. I just first thing I saw here in the comments was, I know how you feel. My bank account always takes a hit for Halloween. Isn't that the truth? Isn't that the way? I love this. It looks like you guys are actually chatting with one another. That really is great. All right, let's try. We still have another candle giveaway. All right. Trivia question. Do. Let's do the next prize. It's Matthew's book, Looking for Christmas. Who's going to win? You have to be in the chat section to actually participate. If you're watching this later in the day, I'm sorry. It's only for people who are here live. Let's see if I can come up with one that might. I want a lot of guesses. A lot of guesses. One of my favorite, if not my most favorite, female vocalist of Christmas tunes. I grew up listening to this female vocalist. Key here, she was also an actress. Which female vocalist is one of my personal favorite voices for Christmas tunes? For me, it's super nostalgic. I think, I don't know much about the art of singing or even just music. I'm very thick-headed when it comes to a lot of things, but I'm very thick-headed when it comes to music. But I just remember, even as a young child, being like, wow, that is a remarkable voice. There's something special. There's something heavenly about that voice. What female vocalist am I talking about? Classic Christmas tunes. Also might have seen her. It's an actress. And I'll give one more hint if anyone needs it. Julie Andrews is a good one. Very close. Like, that's in the ballpark you want to be in, but it's not Julie Andrews. Although I just actually got 2 of Julie Andrews' books, her like memoirs. I got them really cheap. I got them for like $2.50 each, like hardback. I bought them. One day I might want to read up on Julie Andrews a little bit more than, learn a little bit more than I already know. Bette Midler's another good guess. That's not it. All right, I'll give you one more hint. I mean, I'm giving you, these are big hints, because really, how many people could it be? Movie star, vocalist, classic. You guys kind of know my age. Told you I was listening to as a child. She is a relative of a very, very, very famous American actor. Barbra Streisand's another good one. See, there are a lot of possibilities. Whoever figures this out, come on, man. Like, I'm gonna send this to you, but I want you to read it like now. You're not waiting until Christmas. I want you to read it and enjoy it now. And I'm actually gonna want like some words, like your opinions and stuff. I'm finding myself really enjoying like if is this a genre? Just kind of, I don't mean light as in lacking of substance, but like light reading that, in the holiday sensibility or the holiday spirit, I should say. I bought a bunch this year simply because I saw the covers. I'm like, these are pretty covers. I know nothing about this author. She had my same last name, Carlson. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna buy a few of these. Got them for cheap, but I enjoy that. Oh, okay. So I do see it. Let's just make sure that I'm getting the right person. Stephanie Hall, Rosemary Clooney. Yeah, I saw Rosemary Clooney for my aunt's birthday way back. That had to be like 1991. I went to Niagara Falls, New York, and we saw George Clooney. We saw Rosemary Clooney live in concert, and it was all Christmas tunes. And man, it was just like that voice. It just left a forever impression on me. It was like a voice that was like just a very special Christmas. 1991, those early 90s. It was just when like yeah, those Christmas memories are so golden, and her voice is very much a part of those memories. Um, and not just Christmas tunes, but I'm trying to think. When You Wish Upon a Star, Rosemary Clooney's rendition or version of that, amazing, amazing. So if you're not all too familiar with Rosemary's work, outside of White Christmas, the film, then go on iTunes, go on YouTube. But Stephanie, you just won Looking for Christmas, and I want you to read it, and I want you to report back to me. Maybe 150 words, a little essay. No, but in all seriousness, I really hope, I really truly do think this is gonna can brighten your spirits. We need it. We need tools to brighten our spirits. And reading has always been one of my favorite tools to for escape, just like candles, right? And this one was so much fun, and I'm just kind of honored to have the person who wrote this uh, visiting with us every Sunday when we have these live streams. Send me an email, Stephanie, candleenthusiast@yahoo.com. Just remind me of an address that I can send this to you at. And Stephanie says she will write a full book report. Yeah, and one more time, guys. If you've been with us the whole show, I apologize for keep repeating myself, but it's like $8 on Amazon, and it has like my full recommendation. And Matthew, the author, is with us. Show some support, for the creative people in this world. I mean, this is a good product for a very small cost, so it's a safe purchase. Swing over to Amazon, and then soon on Amazon, all the reviews for Matthew's books are just going to be, us, the Candle Enthusiast crowd, like us talking about his book in the reviews. That'll be cool. Let's make that happen. All right. Let's try to switch it up. Let's switch it up. We're at 99 minutes and 9 seconds. And that means it's time for Dreams. Excuse me. Dream by the Fire, part of the Winter Wonderland collection from 2015, 2014. Yeah, this is when I was still burning my candles. I mean, I burn my candles, but if I'm collecting, I usually, if it's something I love, I have one that I put in the shelves and I don't touch. But there was a time, not all that long ago, where I would burn candles that were a part of my collection. Go figure. Go figure. So this one has been lit, but as you can see, not much. Aesthetically, absolutely gorgeous. I'm always a fan of any kind of banner that Yankee puts on the neck. Why not? You know, it's great. You can keep it on, you can take it off, whatever suits you. But I feel like it just gives it a little bit more of a color pop, especially a banner like this. And it, just, you know, somewhat matches the gold down here. But we have these stars that are not stickers, these little blinged out stars. You see the beautiful marbling of the wax and where I melted it. The hearth, split firewood, definitely a pretty dirty. Is it dirty or is it just cement? I think it's pretty ashy. It's a pretty ashy fireplace and I love it. You have that blazing hot cast iron that will be freezing cold in the night if you blow out the fire. Just looking at this, you can really imagine so easily what this would smell like. I mean, yes, we see a fire. Yes, we see wood, both lit and, unlit. That's firewood there. We see the wicker basket as well. We see the stone walls, stone. We see that iron. But look at like the heart of the fire. Let's get in there. You see that like little pop of red, and we see the little frilly white ashy expired waste on the fire logs. Like all of these are components of what a fireplace smells like. That smoldering wood, that what gives it that crackle, and that moment when you're listening to a fire go, it's crackling. Sounds a little bit like bacon in a pan, right? But then there's that moment, like every 10 minutes, something gives, and there's that collapse. And with that collapse, there's a there's a little puff of sweet ashy material that just shoots out of the fireplace a little bit. And man, there's a smell to that. There's a smell, there's a feeling, there's even you can feel it. You can feel the radiating heat from the fire. And when that fire is really broken in, when it's really consumed a lot of the wood, it takes on a whole new aromatic experience versus when you're just getting a fire lit. And of course, where you're burning it, if you burn a fire in an old-fashioned fireplace or a wood stove, yeah, that's going to smell different. It's going to be different. And when I think of an old fireplace like this, and the iron in here, I do kind of think of that uh, the wood stove. But what does it smell like? What does it smell like? Ooh, it smells dusty. Yeah. Like think about going to like an old colonial house in New England, right? And maybe it's not, it hasn't been kept up as it had been in its glory days. But it's okay. There's age and there's character to this house. And upstairs, maybe in a little tiny library or a sitting room, there's just a stack of books, and yeah, there's a little bit of dust there. There's nothing gross about that smell. It smells, very particular. It smells like shelter. It feels like you're in a structure that is not cold and uninviting. It feels very worn in and lived in. That smell of dust. Don't be afraid of the smell of dust. But with that dusty, it has there's a couple other things that are coming to my mind in this category, like sawdust. And I say that very carefully because I don't want you to think like sawdust as in like 2x4 or Home Depot or Lowe's. That's a good smell, but that's not what I mean. I mean like, um, you're splitting firewood and you're throwing all the large chunks into a pile, but you're still making a mess. There's tons of mulchy material where you're chopping that wood, and you sweep it up when you're done or kick it off to the side. But there's that that the very fibrous powder that's created when you're splitting that wood. Think about more that. Don't think of a 2x4 sawdust. Think of the dust from a fresh, not a fresh piece of wood, but a fresh split piece of wood. And I'm going for it, man. And being more specific to the wood, the bark, cedar bark. Find a piece of wood, look for the one that's got all the like resinous, buildup, and try to peel back a piece of that bark. Let it air out, maybe let it dry, but then smell that. Yeah, it has a smell. Um, I know what Yankee Candle uses for this kind of wood, though. There's a lot of woody things going on, some woody notes. Oftentimes they use oak for this. So think of like untreated oak wooden furniture. And there's a cologne thing in there. So it's interesting that there's this very organic smell of the fire and the wood, and maybe the wood is kind of a little bit of a nuttiness from the wood, um, but there's like a little hint of something in there that brings us to ooh. But I'm smelling this on somebody. Like think of dad or grandpa, coming in from the snow. It's mid-December, and it's midday, and it's dark because there's just so much snow. And grandpa or dad's coming in. He's got the big bundle of split firewood that he just got from the fire shed. And grandma can do this too. I'm not being sexist here. Grandma, my grandmother would haul wood. She never had to, but she would. Anyway, so yeah, coming in from the cold, you have all this wood, throw it onto the right by the hearth, stack up the wood. But just that flannel that's got the little bits and pieces of wood, you smell a little bit of grandpa, a little bit of dad, a little bit of grandma with that, all of those fireplace, wood stove, split firewood smells. Yeah, it's got that flannel. Or if you don't want to associate a person, I can easily see a candle company describing this kind of cologne-ish body fragrance smell as being like warm cashmere, clean linen, very, very herbal masculine scent. I like this one. I really like this one. I think only 2 years after, maybe it was only even 1 year, 2 years after its release, I remember this going for like $200 on eBay because, when this collection came out, people didn't buy the entire collection. I mean, how could they? A lot of people, I can't do that. 6 candles. I believe there were 6 in this collection initially. And there were still more Christmas candles that year, but the next year it didn't come out. This collection was not released. People thought for sure, I don't know why, because when has that ever happened? They thought this candle would return. It didn't. And the prices on eBay were skyrocketing, to the point where I wanted to sell mine, but thankfully I had lit it, so I'm like, it's not worth it. But then what happened the year after? They did re-release it again. So it was, I think, 2014. It was introduced. 2014 was introduced. 2015, nowhere to be found. 2016, it did come back. Could be getting those years wrong. In fact, I think I am. No, I'm not. I'm not. I'm remembering my videos. 2016, it came back. Um, Dream by the Fire. Wow, we really went through all of these. There's one more, but you know, I feel like this one might be a little bit of a stretch. It's not a stretch. It's got moonlight in the name, so it's a nighttime fragrance. How are we all doing, folks? We're almost at 2 hours here. We still have a candle to give away. Try to think. I can't have. I need a producer here. Not that I could ever afford such a thing, but I need someone to keep track of what I've done and what I haven't done. Have we done 2 giveaways or 3? How many are we at? We did. Matthew gets the pumpkin fire. Stephanie got Matthew's book. Did I do a giveaway for Santa's Village or Santa's Coffee? Please let me know. Oh, and Dale got it? Stephanie, thank you so much. Shane, did you forget the earlier giveaway? You asked about the ride, and Dale answered it. I did forget about it. Thank you for telling me. And I'm so happy that Dale got it because I met Dale at Santa's Village. Is Dale still here? Thank you. That could have been disastrous. I'll reach out to Dale if he's not still here, but I'm going to send him this. And it's such a perfect thing for Dale to have. Um, um, I just want to make sure. Shane, did you forget the earlier giveaway? You asked about the ride and Dale answered. Yeah. So I'm going to take that as he got it. If not, write me an email. I can't go through the comments right now. Santa's Coffee. Should we get more of these from Virgil? Like, should we do like a very, very affordable, like mini subscription box? Just like a one-time deal, like a little box with a bunch of goodies in it that are all like themed for the candle enthusiast. Stuff like that would be fun. In the comments below, tell me if you think that's a good idea because maybe we can make something like that happen. All right, Humbug Tea. That'll be after this. Okay. Moonlight Harvest. Man, oh man. If we only knew when things like this were released that we should buy them up by the case. Yeah, I mean, this is just one of those candles that, you know, I came across, looked fine. I was really enamored with the photos. Very odd. It's like daytime trees, but then very almost like this looks like the cover of the book Dune, and then here it looks like the sun is about to crash with the earth. These overexposed orange, yellow trees. Then you have these silhouette trees. It's a very odd photo, but with the colors, it's very pretty. Look at that moon. Like that's very science fiction. Moonlight Harvest. And the color of the wax is lovely. I mean, that is like a very plummy, purplish red. This is a spice bomb. Spice bomb for sure. I can already smell it. Already smell it. It's down here, and I smell it. Clove. Clove. It's one of those candles that clove takes the front seat. But we get, the cardamom and the coriander, cardamom mainly, that we usually don't get in typical Yankee Candle pumpkin spice candles. This is a little bit more of that chai spice here. You know, even the vanilla bean. We're getting more of those exotic spices, toasted spices. coriander. Yeah, I was thinking caraway, not caraway seed, coriander. Yeah, and like fresh ground Saigon cinnamon, like that spicy cinnamon, you know? It smells dusty, but it's not faint like an old ground cinnamon that's been sitting in your pantry. Like, Saigon cinnamon has that the essence of that fiery, atomic fireball, that candy, that cinnamon spice. Ah, this is actually moving me emotionally a little bit right now. I talked about this candle, and the only reason why I'm remembering that in this moment is because I smelled it and it pulled this memory out of my head. I spoke about this candle for the first time on camera when I was in Sleepy Hollow, New York. This had to be 2016, and I was at Washington Irving's estate, the author of Legend of Sleepy Hollow. Um, and I remember just being in the parking lot. I was waiting for a tour. I'm like, hey, I got time. Maybe I should just talk about this candle. And I had completely forgotten about that until just smelling this. And man, it's just amazing how it brings back that particular day. It does have those heavy spices, but there's something that screams out, and it's not just because it's on the jar. Of course, it's called Moonlight Harvest, but there is something that screams out harvest, and I'm kind of torn how to describe it. It's kind of smells like has like the sweetness of corn, and not just the meat of the corn, but that the corn stalk, or actually being in the corn field, crunching on the ground. Yeah, like a farmer stand that's got like the cornucopia, little pumpkins, you know, the 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 dried corn. You know all the images. You can picture it in your mind. The wicker baskets, little paper bags on a dirt road somewhere. There's that smell of harvest. There's no apple in here, but it's amazing how much my brain wants to smell apple, or how much my brain does smell apple, because of the associations of everything else that's in this scent. Yeah, I mean, you smell that cinnamon stick, and you smell that sweet, call it corn, call it just a fruitiness that I can't decipher. And suddenly, bam, I'm seeing like spiced apple chips. And there's the sweetness. I was going to say honey. I could still say honey, but like a graham cracker, honey, Teddy Grahams, honey Teddy Grahams. Like there is a sweetness there. There's actually like an all-purpose flour, or a bread flour, like a dry ingredient smell. Like this doesn't smell like fresh out of the oven. This smells like dry ingredients on the kitchen table. That's a lovely candle. It's spicy. Like that clove really pushes it. It pushes it. But I can handle this one. I think I could. I mean, you could see it. I did light it at some point. It probably lit in California, this one. Um, this is like, there's candles like this is when I really wish Yankee Candle had like a back catalog, just some piece of literature that could keep track of these candles. Because if I didn't own this one, if I had burned this through when I first bought it, I probably would never remember it. And it's so scarce that it would almost be erased from existence, at least personally for me. Um, so I don't know. I don't know what the lesson is to be learned there. Take photos of all the candles that you buy, or all take photos of candles that you don't buy. But Yankee Candle, I approached them. It's just one of those days I was bored. I sent them an email, and I'm like, um, I'm a self-proclaimed candle Yankee Candle enthusiast. and I claimed to know so much about the company's history. I was bluffing completely. And I said, I have a grand idea for a coffee table book called, what was it? I said I don't know, half century of candles, the 21st century, like scent. It was such a bad name, but I just threw it out there to see if I'd get any kind of bite. Because at that point, they kind of, I would imagine they kind of knew who I was from YouTube. But yeah, like a coffee table book that's just got high quality printed photos of like catalog spreads. I mean, even if it just looked like a big catalog with all of like the photography every year. I mean, especially in those old days, the mid to late 90s, like, very, very, I mean, you could say it's gaudy. You could say it's like very, I don't know. I mean, yeah, I mean, you could say it is what it is. There was an aesthetic to Yankee Candle in those days, and it's captured in those photos. And I just wish that a lot of these candles that just, one time pour, make it, don't make it, or maybe like this one, this was a European candle. No, it's not. I take that back, but it was released in the UK. But some kind of record. I mean, I have a pretty good, somewhere typed down of a list of what came out every year going back so far. But there's plenty of holes in that inventory list. There's Adam, waiting for you. It's called Santa's Christmas Tree, but you can't take the prize. It's all good. What's going on here? All right. I'll have to read all of these comments in the chat later, but we have a giveaway to do. Okay. Great Humbug Adventure. I've talked about it a lot. The ride, if you've seen the videos, I still have the Humbug right here. I brought him out to show a couple weeks ago, and he's just actually just kind of been chilling there ever since. That's from the original ride. Virgil kindly made this candle called Humbug Tea, and it really does smell delightful. It smells like an Earl Grey, bergamot black tea, super citrusy, a lemon, lime, especially the lime. The lime to me is really what sings. I like this. There's another candle, a tea candle by Fireside called the Mad Hatter's Tea Party, I believe. That was really good. But to me, what really gets me is the ginger. I smell ginger. I smell that lemongrass. Virgil was telling us there's just pineapple and cilantro in here. I think that's great too. However, your nose wants to interpret it is the way you should describe it. But what a perfect little addition for a Sunday brunch coming up. Nice, cozy. Maybe spend a little extra money one Sunday to get like a nicer tea than you usually get, unless you're already pretty fancy. When it comes to tea, I'm not fancy. But maybe do like one of those like fancy English tea party brunch Sundays while you're watching the video and burn this candle. It has to be It has to be a Santa's Village question, guys. I'm sorry. I mean, I really, it's got to be Santa's. I could do a Charles Dickens trivia question, but that maybe is a little bit too obscure. Um, Santa's Village, Santa's Village. Ba, 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 ba. All right. I'm gonna make this really hard first. Thing is, there's no way to do this unless you're actually just cheating. People just go and look at the video. Oh, I should be planning these things ahead of time. Um, let's do it. Let's do it. Let's see what happens anyway. I'll change it if no one gets it. Um, at Santa's Village, they are known for making a very tasty, snackable, sweet, savory treat. They're little donuts, a little donut factory. It's a little shack in the middle of the park, and they're serving up hundreds, thousands, what am I saying? Thousands of little mini donuts every single day. And it's one of the most amazing, like, sensory experiences. Like, I know people, like, pay thousands of dollars to do, like, crazy sensory experiences. But you don't need to spend thousands of dollars. You just need to buy a ticket to Santa's Village and go stand by the park. There's something about being in the frosty, frigid cold outside, stepping close to the shack, leaning in, and then they hand you from a window a little paper bag filled with these hot, steamy, sweet, golden, buttery donuts. Ha ha. And they're crunchy on the outside, but they're like soft dough in the inside. There's that granulated texture on the outside. There's some kind of apple cider component going on in there. Santa, you're not fooling me. These are kind of like apple cider donuts. They're just apple cider in these donuts. So it's fruity, spicy, salty. Everything's great. And then you just throw them in your backpack when you're done, if you got any left over, and go to them like when you get back to your hotel or like hours later in the day. And they're a little bit stale, but they're just as good cold. And you don't need to get sugar on them. If you have no cinnamon sugar on them at all, still awesome. I would maybe put a little salt on them if I were preparing them. So the question is, oh my God, you guys are gonna think I'm nuts. No one's gonna get this question. Um, I gotta be careful because if all right, I'm gonna do it. The machine that makes these donuts at Santa's Village is a little company. I don't know, somewhere in the Midwest, I believe. But they make a line of products like to in a small scale manufacture these donuts on location. What is the name of the company? I've highlighted it several times. What is the name of the company that produces these machines to make these donuts? Half of you folks watching would be like, Shane, just say like what Christmas movie starred so and so. I'm asking you like a question on like industrial culinary machinery. If someone can get that in the next couple minutes, I'll give it to you. If not, I'm going to give you another question while I do my weekly plugging of saying, hey guys, Candle Enthusiast merch. I know. If you buy a Candle Enthusiast hoodie or T-shirt and you wear it out, people are going to be like, are you a candle? What's the Candle Enthusiast? No one's gonna know. Like you're never gonna be like, someone's gonna see you from across like the mall and give you a thumbs up. Like I'm not that well known. If you're watching me, it's good chance that none of your friends are watching you. But when you wear the T-shirt, you know, you know, it's us. These weekly lives, it's all the little trips that we go on, and it's been over 6 years now. So check out the link in the description below for all of the merchandise. You can get a T-shirt, you can get a mug. I mean, you can get like a kitchen apron, and there's several designs. Fun stuff, fun stuff. But I mentioned it a couple weeks ago. I just kind of reminded everybody of this merchandise, and I said, if you buy something, send me a photo. Whoa, like you guys really reached out and sent me a bunch of photos. So, like things that you had just bought or things like you bought way back when. I don't know. I'm gonna like put all these photos together and do like some kind of Instagram thing to highlight all this photography. Some of it's like a really good photography. Some of it's really funny. But yeah, if you ever do purchase merchandise, please email it to me or send it to me through some form of social media. You can always reach me at candleenthusiast@yahoo.com, as long as you're patient with me getting back to you. But also ways to help support and fund the channel in the description below. Patreon, awesome way, awesome way. Hey, what is this? How does it sound about like exclusive video content for 2023 for Patreon members? Always kind of been on the fence about doing that. Like, I like knowing that my content's free, but I'm starting to see a lot of rewards from other people that are doing it. They're like, wow, it's really it helps support the mission of what it is you're trying to create by asking $1 a month to see some exclusive content. So Patreon, GoFundMe, even just whatever, spare change at the end of the week through PayPal or any of the ways. eBay auctions. Buy something from my collection. I have crazy stuff that I have up in the eBay auction. Again, everything's in the description below. All of this is to really help pool the money together, and you guys have been incredible every week with the super chats. We're just pulling this money together. So when I do hit the road, I'm kind of wrapping up my chapter, a chapter of my life here in New York. I'm wrapping it up. Like things are getting in the truck, not literally, but it feels that way. Things are being put in the truck. Things are being packed away. But as soon as we hit that road, it's not only a whole new chapter for the candle enthusiasts. It's a new chapter in my life. Like, that is heavy stuff. Like, you're gonna see the moment where I'm like, between leaving where I am now and before I get to my the destination, I guess there's going to be several days where I'm technically homeless. That's scary stuff, but it's all going to be on camera. And I think I don't have a problem sharing it. And I think if anything, it lightens up the mood if I know that I'm filming it, because I can sense your guys' presence while I'm filming it. Kind of takes the pressure or the scariness factor off of it. But yes, a lot of changing things, a lot of moving parts. And I really, really don't ever want to ask you guys, especially in times like this, for asking like large chunks of change. Really, what's helpful is like if everyone could just like $1, even if it's a one-time $1, that's fine too. But if you got $1 a week, $1 a month to sign up for Patreon, again, the link is in the description. Huge, huge help. It will make a difference. Trust me. All right. No one's got this question, right? Easy bake oven. I love it. See, I don't know what I was thinking. It's produced by a small Midwest company called Little Orbeez. And I was so fascinated when I learned about this machine at Santa's Village. I'm like, I need to research this, and I need to see what this company is all about. I actually have like signs and little like plaques that says Little Orbeez that are like pulled off of machines, like old machines of theirs. I have like a little mini museum of Little Orbeez. This is how enthusiastic I can get about the most random things. But let's do a different trivia question. Okay, so you're gonna be helped here if you're a movie or television, cable television fan. I just gave you some hints there. A movie, a film, a short. It could be any of those, but it is in some form or another a motion picture that debuted in the 90s on cable television. Spooky show It was a spook. I'm just telling you, it's not a movie. Why am I dancing around this? It's so obvious that it's a show. There's a spooky show that existed in the 90s, and the debut episode was a Christmas themed episode, cable television. What was the name of the show? Or better yet, if you know the name of the show, that's not going to help you. What was the name of that episode? Directed by Robert Zemeckis of Back to the Future, Forrest Gump fame. I don't know. The name of the show, the name of the actual episode, whatever it is you want. But there's a Christmas themed episode. It was the debut episode of a spooky show on cable television. And it's not a full length film, but it is among my favorite pieces of Christmas horror cinema. I just think it's brilliantly made. It's not overly complicated, uh, and I think really the sophistication of the filmmaking is in all of the subtleties. But it's just like, how could this show be so spooky and legitimately pretty scary, but also provoke laughter and deep Christmas feels? Like, I'll legitimately put on this episode for, like, if I need a short Christmas movie to watch during the Christmas season. I love it that much. I'm seeing Goosebumps. I'm seeing Are You Afraid of the Dark? Cable television show. So you guys are on the right mark. Oh, there it is. I love Lemon Lips says Tales from the Crypt. Yes, the very first episode of Tales from the Crypt was directed by Robert Zemeckis, and the episode was called All Through the House. And to me, as I've just said, like, this is where I really geek out. Like, this is just such a classic example of really, I don't know, blending genres, whatever it is. Like, it gives me all the same warm, cozy feelings as watching, A Christmas Story, but with some legitimately spooky and suspenseful uh, uh, vibes as well. Very Hitchcockian in the way that the film was filmed and directed. So I love Lemon Lips. And she says, I have no clue. I'm just guessing. Well, that's good enough for today. I want to make sure that this candle goes to you. As long as you're in the US, I love Lemon Lips. Please send me an email. It's going to be candleenthusiast@yahoo.com. And yeah, let's do more of these giveaways, folks. Congratulations to everyone who won. And let's do more of them. I can't do it all the time with the shipping costs the way they are, but we're talking about small items, and it's been a long time since we've done giveaways. I'll sign like a postcard or something to include in all these little gifts. Thank you for all for participating. Thank you all for joining me on this Sunday's live stream. I hope you're enjoying these lives as much as I am. Slow paced, no script at all, obviously. It's a great way for me personally to relax at the end of the week, and I hope it can serve you in the same sort of capacity. But I do want to thank you deeply, sincerely for being here. Just viewing is supporting the channel, and for those of you who support the channel in the means of in the ways of financial support, deeply appreciate it. All right, folks, I will be seeing you soon. But remember to always live enthusiastically. Yeah, do that. Live enthusiastically. When you have that bad stretch and you're like, There's that bad stretch. You know, there's this thing. There's something down the path. You know, soon you need to jump into that, and you need to start dealing with that. It's a scary feeling, and you can postpone that. You're like, I'll get to it. I'll get to it. But there's something that we all need to jump into, and it can be very terrifying. We need to start a process of something, and it's very hard to begin. But I just want to be here as a subtle reminder that it's really just that first step, right? And I'm discovering this myself. I have to reteach myself this all the time. I'm not saying this because I have wisdom. I'm saying this because I'm living it, you know? Like it's that first step that's really scary. And it's okay. Like it's okay to shed a tear. It's okay to be scared. It's okay to have nightmares of what that thing you need to step into is. But just remember, that's it. That first step that's the hardest part. Everything else, you got it. You got it. You'll have it. We'll move on. We'll all go through these cycles of life together. And every Sunday, no matter what's going on, you always have a place to come to. There's the candle discussion, and I'm honored to be the person who can host such a small little intimate community. Thank you all very much. I will see you very soon next weekend, and have a great week. Bye bye now.